Hello and welcome to War With Me. Me, Andy.
And me, James. I'm here too. Oh, Andy.
How are we feeling about the game in general first, I guess, before we get into specifics?
Andy, I'm not happy with the game once again. But more importantly, I'm disappointed in us.
Yeah, this one's not the game's fault.
This is an us problem. It spouts from the game. The game is the core issue, really. If the game didn't exist, we wouldn't have reason to feel ashamed. But we do have reason to feel ashamed. My goodness, we have made quite the mess this week. Well, actually, it wasn't this week. We've made a consistent mess. But today, it's only just came to fruition.
Yeah, we made a fundamental error at the very start, and it manifested today.
So, as you all know, we are playing the campaign for North Africa. We're playing a practice run at the moment, the first 6 turns. We're currently knee-deep in the first operation stage. We're doing movement and combat, and we've realised a grave mistake that we've made. One that has reshaped the way we've seen the game and really shook us to our core this week. It has been a mess.
Yeah, turns out vehicles are fuel tanks.
Oh, God. It's so stupid when you say it out loud. How the fuck didn't we realise this? Oh, vehicles have fuel tanks. They can store fuel inside their tanks, their bodies, their car bodies, their truck torsos. You can put petrol in them, and they can keep it in there. We have been so naive and misguided. And yeah, so the issue is we've been looking at the game. We've been trying to scrutinize all these tiny little mistakes that are in the rules, all these inconsistencies, and we missed something that was just written in the rules, saying that cars, tanks, trucks have fuel tanks that you can put petrol in, put fuel in, and they have their own internal capacity. We were under the impression you can only take fuel from your supply caches.
Or
That's
trucks,
or the storage areas of the trucks. What we didn't realize, for some stupid fucking reason, is that vehicles have their own capacity within them.
Yeah.
Which means that a truck, for example, a light truck, has a fuel capacity of 8, which means it can move about 40 hexes without needing to refuel.
Which is a lot.
Which means they should all start with that. Which means we've been playing the game from the start so far with the impression that they don't have any fuel in them yet. So that we've had to take it from the fuel supply, the supply caches, the supply dumps. So we've just eaten into all these resources. And we've also massively overcommitted the amount of fuel that we need because we didn't realize that they all have fuel already and they can keep fuel in them.
It's probably messed up some of our planning with like ranges of vehicles and stuff, but it's not so disastrous. We're starting again, thankfully. And along the same lines, we also made another... Cars have fuel tanks and guns have clips.
How dare we complain about this game being complicated when we misunderstand the simple stuff?
Yeah, that's 100% on us.
Yeah, we were looking into it on the back of the whole fuel tank debacle. We thought, have we missed anything else? God, yeah, we have. Men can carry ammunition. Guns can be loaded with ammunition. You don't just have to pick out the bullets from the big pile of bullets. You can actually load your guns with them. So, yeah, it turns out there's another rule that men and guns, tanks, every combat unit can carry enough ammunition to fire once. So they have their own... They have their own ammunition pockets, which means they should also start with that. That's another thing that we hadn't done. We were taking that from all of the supply dumps and caches and trucks. So we uncovered this when we were playing through, and we realized that one of the first combats that we played out today, we played out a combat between it was the 1st and 2nd Libyan divisions on the Axis side. Yep. And for you, it was it the rifle battalion, 2nd Rifle Regiment or battalion?
The 3rd Coldstream Guard and the King's Royal Rifle Company.
Yes. So they had a bit of a skirmish on the border of Libya and Egypt, and we were doing it with minuscule amounts of ammo. We're talking about a fifth or maybe less of our actual units had the ammo to fight. And it was only when we came across the truck issue, the fuel problem, that we realized these men should also have all the ammo they need in order to fight. So we spent a long time kicking ourselves over that, but we decided it hasn't went so bad that we need to undo everything. There are a few pieces that have been fundamentally changed by that, which means that the chauffeurs and garrison on my side that were taken prisoner in their entirety because they had no ammo, that shouldn't have happened last week. But we're going to keep that in because it's not game-breaking, and that's how things played out. We're not going to go all the way back, primarily because this is a practice run.
And we are trying to find these mistakes so they don't happen on the real one. I think if something like this happened on the real one on the first turn, we would have restarted. But
we would have had to. We would have had to because it changes the game completely.
Yeah.
It's already changed the game in that our initial supply schedules are oriented around the idea that none of the trucks had fuel already and that the ammunition is so sparse. But in reality, it's not that at all. So we've had to take that and swallow our pride a little bit and accept that we've made the game maybe a little bit more difficult than it would be. However, ultimately, the game being difficult is not the end of the world. We're sort of familiar with that. It's more a case of we now need to really change the way that we're approaching the game going forward. We need to bear in mind that people do have ammunition. Trucks can have fuel in their fuel tank. Crazy, I know. You know what, the thing is as well, we had a look at it, it's not even hidden away.
no, one of the sections we've definitely spent time talking about before, the fuel capacity one. Because I remember us talking about that equation.
Yeah, we have. The equation for the fuel capacity is the CPA capability, so that the sort of action capability of a vehicle, times
No,
0.4.
a fifth, basically.
So 0.2. And then times by the fuel capacity rating, or the fuel consumption rating,
Consumption rating, yeah. Which should end up being the CPA of the thing. Basically, their tanks can move them one op stage, is what I've picked up from that, yeah.
Yeah, so vehicles can move one full op stage. People can fire one full op stage. Both of those can be done from go, and we just had not factored that in at all. Not even not factored it in. We didn't realize it existed. And the thing is, in a game so realistic, down to a fault, why wouldn't it have those things? You need extra water to boil pasta, for God's sake. Oh, God. So my chauffeurs and garrison has been taken prisoner. You absolutely trounced my guys in the first fight. The first Libyan division was sent packing because you just scared them off. They were fought so fiercely that they had to retreat in the end. And then it was after that we realized the mistake, which means we then played through another combat, which was...
Did not go as well for me.
It did not. And to be fair, it wasn't even so much the level of ammunition. You brought in more men. Who was involved in that fight for you?
I've got it. The Royal Tank Regiment.
Yes.
The Coldstream Guards and the King Royal Rifle Company, the 3rd and 4th Horse Artillery, and the 7th Medium Artillery. So I had like 6 units there for that fight. But you got incredibly lucky on barrages.
I did. So I had the 2nd Libyan Division involved in that one, and they managed to pull it out the bag with the barrage. So the sequence of combat, it goes barrage, which is where you can use your artillery to bombard the enemy and try and pin them and kill some of them as well. And then after that, it moves on to anti-tank combat, anti-armor, where you can try and take out some of the guns and tanks.
Before the close assault.
Yes, the close assault being the sort of meat of it, where all of the men move in. You can also assign tanks and artillery to that section. That's really where the real bulk of the combat happens. But in the barrage, the very first portion of that, I fired 2 barrage shots, and they were with 2 barrage points. And that's determined by the efficiency of the gun, and that's timed by its toe strength points. So it's dependent on how many guns you have and how capable they are. You fired with
7 barrage points worth.
Yes, 7 barrage points. I fired with 1 each on my 2 guns. Your 7 barrage points came up nothing.
Yeah, just to put in perspective, 24 ammo points is what I spent on this barrage. An ammo point is 4 tons of ammo. So I've dropped 96 tons of ammo on you to no effect.
I fired 16 tons of ammo.
Yeah.
Because, 8. I fired 8 tons of ammo.
And pinned 2 units.
and I sniped them both. So both your infantry units, your only infantry units that were involved in that fight, were pinned immediately by those guns.
Yes.
Which meant you didn't then have enough men to support your tanks.
Yes, because the combined arms rules basically mean if you don't have an equal number of infantry toe points to tank toe points, the tanks get such a penalty, they end up with no functional combat effectiveness.
Which meant that you then couldn't carry out the rest of that fight, so the barrage is where it ended.
Which, luckily, I did a hold-off barrage.
Which is another rule.
Yeah, which basically, if you do a barrage point for everything other than other artillery on the enemy's side, that can satisfy combat, and you can not close assault.
Yeah, it's a way to sort of stalemate the enemy. So it meant that since you did that, you did enough damage, you held me off. You didn't actually hurt anyone, but you held them off enough so that no combat had to then take place, which was actually then the end of your movement phase.
Yes.
That's you now wrapped up for movement, which means it's now me who gets to move next week. And now that I know all my men have ammo, it's going to be a very different story.
Yeah, so I guess because it's the scenario, we could talk to each other a bit about it. My plan has been I've been quite aggressive in this one.
And to be fair, it paid off initially because that fight against, albeit yes, ammo played into it, but you fought against the 1st Libyan Division, and we both lost 5% of our forces. That was the result on the table. So we both lost 5%, and I was forced into a retreat. So I had to retreat back a hex.
Yeah.
So that went well for you in that you pushed my men back, and I lost some men. You lost a few, but I lost 5% of the whole division. You lost 5% of the guys that you sent in.
Yeah.
So your strategy has definitely been aggression. Yeah. So what else has surrounded your plan?
Well, my plan is the game sort of started with a front along the Libya-Egypt border. My sort of plan was, well, once you gave me initiative, I sort of changed it. I'm going to get aggressive on that border and give you a bunch of stuff to deal with so you can't sort of get everything grouped and moving along the coast road towards Egypt. So try and keep you busy here. Because with it being the Graziani offensive, I know it's probably not the win condition. In my head, if I can stop him having an offensive as it is, that'll be a good result for me.
Yeah, I mean, that is in essence the objective. It's for me to get across the border and get as far into Egypt as possible. Cairo, ideally.
Yes.
So if I can get further along that road, it's great for me. And right now, you do have a lot of men around there, even though it looks like that combat might set you up for a bit of a bad situation in the future. It's still the case that I've got a decent chance of running into some obstacles because you've got a lot of guys there. So I'm optimistic that now that we know we have fuel and ammo, that there's going to be a lot more combat and action.
Yes.
But I'm not necessarily certain what the outcome of that will be, because I do have the numbers in some areas, but there are others where I have a lot of gaps in my forces.
Yeah. I have noticed from today's session is morale's is huge.
It is a massive factor because it shifts everything's done in columns. All of the tables, they get shifted columns depending on things like morale, cohesion, the strength of the units. So if morale is bad, it shifts that column massively, and that changes the results of the combat. It means you could go from losing 5% of your men to 25%, or being completely overrun, which means that you end up losing even more.
Yeah.
All of the guns or people that you held back from the fight, they can also be impacted. So it gets real bad if the morale is out of whack.
Yeah.
My morale in real life is out of whack. That was fucked.
Yeah.
It was really bad. Oh, really, really bad. How do we miss that, man?
Yeah, it has concerned me about the rest of it, but...
Well, it's making me think a lot now. We were talking last week about was it last week? No, the week before. About the tactical shipping rules.
Yeah.
And the fact that they aren't correct. Or rather, they don't exist. And we've looked back through today as well, just to be sure. And they don't exist. I'm certain they don't exist.
Yeah, because what we have done now is we've got... signed up for the Adobe trial to turn the PDF into a text searchable thing.
Yes.
So we won't run into these issues, hopefully, because we can search it. And yeah, tactical shipping appears in the whole thing 4 times. And it's like the sequence of play, and that's it. So it doesn't seem to mention it. So I think we've got that one right.
I would say, yes, I'm confident with that. We did actually have a message on the back of last week's episode.
Yes.
All about the tactical shipping segment. And that was from an individual who I've just seen we've gone to their email, actually. Oh, look at that. Coming in hot and heavy. So it was a message from Matthew, and thanks for this, Matthew. You sent over a message asking about the tactical shipping and pointing to some of the points where it's mentioned. And just in case we hadn't made it clear in the last episode, for those that are interested, it was the case that the Allied forces can move troops with their naval convoys.
Yeah.
They can't move supplies, seems to be the issue.
Well, they can. That all happens in the truck movement convoy stage. Every time it mentions moving stuff, it's in that convoy stage, not this tactical shipping phase that doesn't seem to exist.
Yes, so I think it is the case that, as you rightly pointed out, and thank you for the message there, Matthew, it is the case that we are able to ship. Well, I'm not able to. I can, but not through your ships, Andy. We are able to move troops. That part does seem to be correct, but it's later on in the game. Whereas the tactical shipping segment seems to suggest that you can do it. Oh, you know what? I can't even act sort of smug about the game being wrong at the moment. I need to, you know what? I need to dial it back down to subtle, humble, and brave. We're in the wrong today.
Yeah.
Not Richard Berg. Not the game. Today it's us.
Yeah.
Today it's us. And that's all right. We're big men. We're big men with tiny little egos.
Yes.
So this is fine for us to admit.
But it's somehow squashed those small egos even further.
It has. It has, hasn't it? We were devastated when we found this out.
Yeah.
This has really shaken us to our core.
Well, it's such a simple thing. It wasn't like we missed a addendum or something was weird. We just missed sentences.
There's an actual formula as well where it tells you how to figure out the
Yeah.
fucking fuel capacity.
Yeah. So I think we've both said, well, I think individually we both said we're probably going to go away and reread the rules again.
Yes,
And
we have to.
Each section we do, we're now going to read them, at least for the first couple turns, I think, read them again before we start implementing anything. Because we've been referring to them in like combat and movement, but I think enter the organisation stage, read the organisation section front to back, make sure we understand it, and keep doing that for every phase.
And the benefit of today is that we had that first combat with the one where we both lost 5% of our forces when we did it with minimal ammo. And that one took a while for us to get through, maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then we had the second one that we did towards the end. That took half an hour, maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was a lot faster.
We flew through that, and that was with a lot more units engaged.
Yeah.
And that one, yes, albeit we didn't do the close combat, the close assault because of the barrage, but we had the figures already there to go. That is a great sign that we picked up on the rules, we think, and we flew through it then. Really did. So I think all in all, we are making some changes that we need to, but it's not going to throw things completely out of whack.
Yeah.
Now we just know everyone's got ammo. and fuel,
a great change for us.
which is brilliant. It's
it should
absolutely
make the
brilliant.
actual game much more dynamic because we can do stuff immediately, and units can. Well, I don't need one truck of every type of thing.
Exactly.
So
We don't need to worry too much about fuel. We need to worry about it still, but not as much as we did.
Yeah.
And we can focus more on ammo and, yeah, the fact it goes in guns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. What smart men we are. So clever.
Yeah. But I do think the combat system works well when you've got all the stuff ready for it. It feels like it's. I actually really like it. It's a.
Yeah. You know what? At the risk of sounding naive and positive, I actually enjoyed it today. Even though we had that massive setback and it felt for a moment like we'd absolutely ruined everything, it actually turned out to be fixable. We've moved forward now. We've now got columns on our sheets, or at least I've started putting them in for ammunition and fuel. And it doesn't seem like that big of a thing because it's essentially a toggle on or off of do they have weapons loaded? Yes or no? Do they have fuel in that tank and how much? So it's really not that big of a thing to have to fix. It's just more a case of it changes how we plan our moves in the game.
Yeah.
Which is, you know what, it's a nice problem to have because it goes to show that we're now in the stage of play where we're worried about what the actual turns look like.
And they actually matter. Like, it's not abstract, I guess, now. It's like...
Yeah, it's not about worrying how we'll lay out the table.
Yeah.
It's actually worrying about how we play the game.
Yeah.
That is a big difference, one that I'm welcoming. So every cloud.
So it's good old silver lining on this one.
It absolutely is.
I'm getting a sense for some of the other stuff as well. Like, disorganization, I think... I'm starting to get a sense that that's actually much more important than I thought. Because when it was saying the rules were like, oh, you can push past the CPA, I was kind of picturing that happening a lot. But I think because they take turns and turns to get it back, you don't want to be pushing except in like extreme circumstances. I don't know if I guess you've not been moving stuff around yet to get a sense of it, but
yeah,
that's sort of what I'm picking up.
And I'm looking forward to it next week. I think me being able to move my men around and just pushing the pieces around, I think it goes to show that this practice run was a great idea.
Yeah.
Because we've said this before, we aren't experienced war gamers. We've played other board games, but I don't think Ticket to Ride or the Pandemic board game, which, by the way, anyone thinking of buying that, I wouldn't recommend it. The Pandemic board game is... Oh, I did not enjoy that game. Yeah. It's too and I know this sounds like I'm some sort of board game masochist, but that game was far too easy.
Yeah,
it's unlosable. Cannot lose it in that game. So we don't have experience with anything anywhere near this game. No. Yes, this is the dramatic, complicated behemoth that it is, but we've not played anything like this. No. So we're probably missing stuff that's fairly basic for people who are familiar with it.
I mean, the way we play D&D is like a very homebrewed at this point because one, there's some grandfathered in rule misunderstandings, as well as homebrew stuff. So thinking back, we should have the one other sort of complicated long running thing we've had going. We have made some of those mistakes as well. Just that's a cooperative group storytelling thing rather than a competitive war game. So someone having a +1 on an item they shouldn't. Isn't crazy.
It's not so bad when it's Dungeons and Dragons, but the idea of this game isn't to, and this sounds bad, it's not to have a fun time playing it and make it a great experience, it's to finish it.
Yeah, and hopefully we do have fun playing it, but also the fun for a competitive game is very different, so...
It is.
We do need to be playing with consistent rules we both are on the same page with.
And hey, we're chipping this bad boy away. We're getting there. And the fact that we're now under my movement phase, this then wraps up, and then we have 2 more operation stages where we kind of lather, rinse, repeat. And I think towards maybe the 3rd operation stage, I think it might be the case that we've actually got a really good idea as to how the game works.
That's what I'm hoping, yeah.
So I think, realistically, we're going to have a very different view of this game by the time this first turn wraps up, let alone the first 6. And then we go into the real thing.
Yeah.
that's when things get real high stakes because the meal is on the cards. So whoever wins the main game gets a meal bought by the other one.
Big one.
So that's when it really comes in. That's when it's big. So I suppose that amongst all of this excitement we've had, I suppose it'll be a bit of a switch up of format today because we don't have a history segment. We've been so engaged between being quite busy. I had a busy week away. I was away. Had a little time away, a little trip to myself last week, and I'm badly sunburned on my arm still. I don't know if you saw it earlier.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'm still badly sunburned on my arm. 4.5 hour walk with 23-degree heat beating down. Didn't get any sun cream applied, by the way. Just thought, I'll just rough this one.
Yeah, you're tougher than the sun.
Yeah, turns out no, the sun's real good.
The sun wins that one.
Yeah, you know what? I need to really live by our subtle, humble, and brave because...
Yeah, it's not just a catchphrase, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm trying to fight against the board game. I'm trying to fight against celestial bodies, and everything's winning.
Could do a little humility.
I know, I really could. This is on me. So yeah, because of our change-up of schedule and today being the just deplorable mess that it was, we won't have a history segment this week.
No.
This is, instead of just us rambling, it's back to basics. But I think what we can do is we can read some mail.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll have a little look at the mailbag. Yeah. I'm sure you guys will cheer us up. It's gonna be people just slagging us off for not knowing the rules, isn't it? Someone's probably already way ahead of us, knowing that we didn't get anything right.
Never happened.
No, everyone's been very nice. So this is gonna cheer me up, guys. I'm counting on you. Who's first? First up to the docket, Robert. Oh, Robert. You're going to save my soul today, aren't you? So, Robert, you've wrote, "Hey, I found your podcast through Cam Sandwich, and I've listened to every episode currently available. 19. Goes to show how far behind we are with some of these. You even inspired me to buy a Hex Encounter wargame just to have a better idea as to what you're going through. Although I've made the sensible decision to actually research which ones are beginner-friendly." Robert, this is starting to make me feel worse. "I settled on Thunderbolt Apache Leader." Can't say I've heard of that one. Have you, Andy?
No, I'm giving it a quick goog, but...
I'm enjoying it a lot. Although, even with the relatively simple logistics, I'm still running into the problem of disproportionately long prep for short battles. I mean, I finished a campaign in 2 days. Not even close to your problems, but still. So yeah, if you don't want to waste my $70, keep the podcast going. How's that for accountability?
It's a good reminder of why we're doing this. I think it was needed today.
You know what, Robert? I think what I needed there was that tough love, and I think, yeah, you know what? That's right. I did tell you to buy board games and to get involved in that. I think anyway, and Andy, you as well. You're also responsibility. Oh my god!
Oh. It has broken you.
Oh, my New Year's resolution with this game was to not get angry at it anymore.
I mean, that was wild, and that was never happening.
That's true, but yes, Robert, you're right. We do need to keep this going, and the fact that you've bought Thunderbolt Apache Leader, which how is that looking? You got the gist of it. What is Thunderbolt Apache Leader?
I'm not going to be able to. I don't know. What I can see is it's got a board that seems to succinctly fit on one table.
A little mini board then.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, if we've inspired someone to go and play a genuinely fun game instead of campaign for North Africa, I'm all for it.
Well, I hope it's a good time, Robert. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it isn't anything that's going to be having you pulling your hair out. I feel like my hair's going even more grey now. So I would say...
As for the problem of relatively simple logistics, taking disproportionately long time, I think that's just the nature of logistics from real battles into games. It's more time than the actual fighting. But yeah, never going to find a solution to that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think, stick with it, though. Yeah. I hope you get a few playthroughs of the game. Maybe move on to something a little bit more extreme and testing. If it's to challenge yourself, there's a lot of other games out there that we've seen that are not as bad as the campaign for North Africa, but are a few steps below that I think you might actually be able to convince some friends to get in with. That isn't going to take decades of your life, maybe just a few weeks or months.
Yeah.
So test the waters. What I will say about all this, it's at least interesting. It's something to do. I'll tell you that.
It's definitely a project.
It's definitely that. All right, who we got next? Who's next on
I've
the
got one
docket?
from Mac. Yep.
Yeah, we've got. Just looking at his email, it's he sent Morse code for the subject.
Oh.
We didn't actually translate that. Tell you what, if you want to read out the email, I'll get to translating the subject.
Cool, you fire that down to Bletchley.
Bletchley on the line.
Hello. Been listening for about a month and seemingly like most found your podcast for a random Reddit comment. As a fan of both history and tabletop games, my initial draw to the podcast was down to this. However, I'd go as far as to say one of the things that has kept me here so long is your dulcet northern regionalised accents and general anguished undertones throughout the pod. You're going to love this one.
This one's for you, Matthew.
Firstly, I think it was episode 16, but correct me if I'm wrong, you'd spoke about the furthest away listeners. I'd like to enter the competition for closest listener who isn't your friend or family. Morpeth. That probably will be, yeah.
Yeah, Morpeth is... Yeah, that's not too far from us.
I was there a few weeks ago.
Oh, well, there you go. Visiting Matthew, I imagine.
Didn't run into him, but...
You don't know that.
Maybe next time. I might have actually, yeah.
Matthew, you met him. You met Andy. Don't you remember?
It was a great experience. Anyway, what part, if any, does the Allied long-range desert group play in the game? And if they're not included with any particular set of rules, I suggest looking at the tactics employed by the long-range desert group for the main game proper, if they'd fit into the general rule set. Genuine and sincerely enjoying the pod. Keep it up. I'll be here for the long haul too. Cheers, Mac. Thanks for emailing in, Mac. So, Long Range Desert Group, yeah, good question. They are in the game, and they're a really fun unit, I think, from what I've read, with some pretty unique mechanics.
A thorn in my side, I think, is probably how I would describe them, because they are poised to be trouble for Rommel when he shows up.
Well, one, yeah, they're the only guys who can possibly get Rommel and his little meep unit.
Yes, yeah, he's doing a bit of a Roadrunner thing.
What I really like about them, they disappear off the board, so the other player doesn't see them. They're completely secret.
Yeah, so I don't even get to see where the counters are. I get to see where they start, I believe.
Yes, when they're formed from a armoured car unit or a reconnaissance unit, you see where they are, and then as soon as they move, they disappear.
Spooky.
Yeah, but they can raid airfields, supply lines, supply dumps, and they're meant to operate behind enemy lines, so they have different requirements for fuel and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to using them to damage you behind enemy lines. And a fun thing they can do, which is also based on real life, maybe an upcoming history segment here, they pair well with the Special Air Service Brigade.
Yes.
The SS, who were formed in this conflict, I believe. And I can't remember the exact numbers but I believe they destroyed more planes in North Africa than the RAF.
Really?
Like, on the ground, yeah. Because they'd go on these, like, week-long excursions behind enemy lines and then just hit. They'd sneak in with, like, sticky bombs and stuff and blow up the aircraft. And I think they might have ended up destroying more aircraft on the ground than the RAF did in the air for this theatre.
That's wild.
Yeah. So, even if I don't get one soon, as for the tactics of raiding airfields and stuff, I definitely think I'll be trying to adopt some of them.
So yeah, they're definitely an interesting part of the game. I know for a fact I'm going to freak out when they start causing trouble for me. So that's going to be one I am kind of excited to see, but I guess not see. See how that actually affects me. I get a similar group myself, but I don't think I get as many as you. I think you get 2 or 3.
I think I maybe max out at 3, and I think you get 1.
Yeah, so I'll get a similar experience maybe at some point
Yeah.
with I think it's when the Germans show up.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're in there. They're in there. So I mean, this game's very realistic. It's got pasta and fuel tanks. So of course it's got the long range desert groups.
yeah.
So we're interested to see how they'll play out. So yeah, good bit of history. You clearly know your North African theatre. So
There
thanks
is
for
a
that one,
fun
man.
bit just in the rules about the long range desert group as well. A phrase I enjoyed.
Yeah.
It says, although they're hidden, you should write them down on pieces of paper so you can produce them if asked.
Produce them in ass.
If asked, not in ass. Do not keep them there. In case there's a matter of disbelief between gentlemen, which is it's a very classy way of going, you're cheating and lying.
Yeah, that's a good point. To be fair, we're documenting everything,
Yeah,
so I think that will already happen with digital records.
Yeah, but I do. It's a fun phrase.
It is. I mean, the game is littered with fun bits in the rule books. If only we read it properly. We've got next one is from Kate, and the subject line is "Ask the Void for an email, and they shall deliver." Well, thank you, Void. The email reads, "Hi, Andy and James. I've just hit episode 13 of the podcast, and hopefully by now you have received an email. But if not, hello. We have indeed, Kate. We have indeed. I'm here to meet the desperate plea for the Void to speak back to you via email. Here's a question. Following the common ground that cats should be evicted and start careers as pest control specialists," it's an Andy classic, "how do you feel with the progress made by the UK government that gives renters more rights and accessibility to, gasp, home pets in these accommodations? Personally, I think a sane response is a positive one. But knowing this doesn't fit into the cat should be free agents policy you're workshopping, I want to get your perspective. Best wishes, Kate. P.S. I hope this email also gives you the relief that there are in fact women/non-binary people in the audience, and it's not just men who enjoy absolutely rubbish games. And P.S.S. Found the podcast via Cam Sandwich. Worst board game of all time cameo. Keep it. Keep it? I'm not sure if that's keep it up or if that's keep your board game, or I'm not sure, but I like the ambiguity. We'll do both. Well, I suppose we'll defer to you first of all, Andy, when it comes to the cat point, because it was your common ground back then, all about cats being municipal property.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the UK government having to enforce landlords to be a bit more lenient towards pet ownership?
I mean, it's good.
Oh, I see.
Favour of renters' rights in general. This wouldn't affect that, though. You can have it. You should be able to have any pet you want in your house. While the cats are at work until they've earned their keep again, they're not pets. It's like you should be able to have a dog in a house you're renting. There should be some steps to jump through if you've got like a zebra.
Okay, yes,
We're
sorry.
moving it to the exotic working animal section.
That's right. If I remember correctly, your issue was that cats have a societal debt to repay.
Yeah, had it easy for too long.
That was it, yeah. So it's not a case of you think that they are inherently unownable or someone should never have them as a pet, but there's currently a debt that needs to be paid by the cats.
Yeah, and once they have, get them in there.
Yeah, so I think, maybe it is the case that the government is onto something, but maybe they need to implement some steps to bear in mind that there are certain animals out there that have been either pests or freeloaders, perhaps.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, they should maybe give a little back, and in return, they've been given some incredible rights. So I think it's only fair for them to maybe give us a little too.
Yeah.
So no, I think it's definitely a positive step. We've lived together before.
Yeah.
We've had some pets in those homes.
Against my will.
Yeah. I've had a goldfish in one of our former homes. No, his name was Nulmerk, and he God rest his little goldfish soul. I miss him.
Sure.
And
because at that place, this links to renters, right? someone would come to view the property every like 3 days because he was trying to sell the house for a year.
It was so bad.
So because we weren't allowed pets, you'd have to hide him whenever someone was going to come round.
I did. I had to put him in that in the sort of corner of the room where the wardrobe was, and I used to leave the light on for him so he had some light. Because I feel like that room was just like a little box that I lived in.
It wasn't really a bedroom; it was a space under the stairs.
It was. I felt like I was Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And then we had I had a hamster.
Yes, which again I came home to, and there was a hamster there.
Yeah, and he was fine. He was quite quiet, apart from the fact that his wheel that he would run on was incredibly squeaky.
All night, yeah.
Yeah.
So he wasn't quiet at all.
And then when we moved, our landlord was very strict. And at one point, as you may remember that time when our landlord thought that we had a bird. That was when they came around for the inspection when we were moving out. And the fire alarm, the smoke alarm had a low battery, so it was doing the low battery.
Oh, yes, and
beep
she was
thing.
like, "Where's that bird?"
It was her husband
Yeah.
who came in, and he was like, "What was that noise?" I was like, "Oh, it's the smoke alarm. It's a low battery." And he's like, "Oh, it sounded like a bird." I was like, "No, it's the smoke alarm." He's like, "It sounded a lot like a bird." I'm like, "Yeah, maybe it did, all right, but it's not a bird."
I do like, he asks you a third time, and it's like, well, the third time seals all. There is a bird in here.
Yeah, I am bound by the ancient mystical laws of fae creatures. If you ask me 3 times, I have to admit to the secret bird that we have here. This is after he'd done an inspection of the flat as well, with us there.
Yeah, I am curious where he thought the bird was.
Yeah, so if you are listening, former landlord, we didn't have a bird. We just hadn't replaced the batteries in the smoke detector. It's actually much more detrimental to your property because one of them burns them down, and it's not the bird. And as well as that, on your point, Kate, that the relief that there are in fact women and non-binary people in the audience. If anything, it just troubles me that there's even more people listening to this and putting themselves through this. All are welcome. There are no borders or boundaries in the deserts of our mind, except the limits of your own I attention span. So anyone is welcome to commit the time to listen to this. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good way to spend your time. But yes, we're very proud of a diverse audience because what we're doing is so subtle, humble, and brave. It attracts people of all creeds, races, religion, and location. I mean, we've got people all over the world listening to this sometimes. Well,
Yeah,
I think that's
good to hear that, though.
Yeah, a good meal segment, and I think good pick-me-ups. I think that is the kind of thing I needed to reinvigorate my spirit that little bit.
Okay.
I think it was just when I needed to know that there's a lot of people out there from all different backgrounds that are really rooting for us because they either live very close to us or they've bought a board game or they disagree with our views on pets. And whatever it is, I think we needed this today. I think this was us regrouping.
Yeah.
This was us getting a little bit of respite, a little bit of R&R, and realizing that this mistake doesn't mean that we're bad at the game. Well, it does.
It does by definition.
But that's not going to stop us.
No. We're going to keep pushing that rock up that hill.
Absolutely. This Sisyphean task that we've taken on
Requires an audience.
It does.
It requires a bunch of people go, look at that idiot pushing that rock up that hill.
We haven't quite understood the idea of absurdism. We, if anything, it's more voyeurism, it would seem, that we've become into. If you're not watching us play the game, does it make a sound?
Yeah.
Depends whether or not we've got the mics turned on. So, I suppose one thing that we do have left to do is to find some common ground.
Oh, yeah.
And now for something nicer. A little oasis in the war. It's time for some common ground. I'm trying the intro for common ground. I'm recording. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, what are we looking at today? It's your common ground.
I do have some common ground.
And what is that? Because today I feel like we have been unified already in the mishaps we've had in the game.
Yeah.
But I feel like just something to really close this off and bring this all together as a nice round circle where we're all together in this. What is your common ground?
We should be building confusing, huge stone monuments.
Should we now?
Yes.
And when you say we, do you mean us, me and you, or do you mean as a society, as a civilization?
Civilization.
Okay. I'm gonna need a lot of context to this one.
Okay. Basically, it's a society-wide prank on future archaeologists and historians.
Right?
So, we had a sphinx in the middle of Kent. Of a random bloke's head, not a famous guy, on like a tapir's body. And we just leave that there with no context for future generations to figure out what's going on. Henges under car parks. Pyramids for guys that never existed. You know, fun stuff like that.
You're talking about, I think, gaslighting our descendants.
Yes.
I would like to know your motivation, Andy. Because that's kind of demented. I'm going to need some real good rationale.
It's fun.
Did you just shrug? Did you just fucking shrug? That's not an explanation.
Okay, one.
Yes?
If no one has any hope of being remembered because history will be entirely fake, they can just focus on their own lives instead of like legacy building.
Well, how are they going to know that these are fake?
How's who gonna know?
The future?
They're not. They're gonna think they're real.
Then they are going to worry about legacy.
Yeah, but you can make a fun, different one.
But that doesn't change people wanting a legacy. They're going to think, oh god, all these people had legacies. This guy who had his...
No, for us now. For the builders, as we'd be known.
So our generation, our civilization,
Yeah.
as we are now, you think we should forego the idea of being remembered or having a legacy
Individually. Yeah.
Because as a civilization, we're going to become a funny bit.
Yeah.
We're going to become a joke.
Well, it's like, we've got to look after the environment for future generations, or no one's going to see my giant pyramid covered in a made-up language.
So what if we just littered the earth with
Confusing monuments.
with pointless crap? And then, in exchange for that, we get what? To realize that no one will remember us anyway.
And the future will have a more vibrant, fun view of what was going on.
I don't think you realize how dangerous of a precedent you're setting for two people who are playing a stupid fucking board game that goes on forever and recording a podcast about it every week.
Yeah.
That's bad for... Is that what this is? Is this your silly monument? If you just gave the game away, is this what you're doing?
In some ways, yeah.
Is this your silly monument? Is this your Kent Sphinx?
Yeah.
Is this what you see this as? You're trying to create complete erasure of legacy.
Kinda. The thing is, I was thinking, no one really knows how the pyramids were built.
No, we went over this. We went over this in a
Yes.
previous episode.
But we'd use diggers instead of slaves.
So we're going to use a JCB instead of
Yeah.
nations of slaves.
And then actively cover up the build site so there's no evidence for future generations.
So we're going to try and stump them.
Yeah. So then they could have fun theorizing.
Yeah, but then they might just do what we have done now and go, oh, they had slaves.
Or aliens. A lot of people think that.
Yeah, they do think that, but it was slaves last time, and I feel like they might go to slaves again this time. That might be what they think.
They might. That is bad, yeah.
I don't really want to be misconstrued as someone who was all right with slavery for the sake of building silly Kent Sphinx or a Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Or any other kind of henge, really. Doesn't really matter what kind of henge it is. I don't want any slave henge to be built under Tesco's car park.
I think we can agree with that.
Right, okay, we're
I'd
getting
like
somewhere.
the henge.
Right, yeah, I get that you're after a henge. Okay, fair enough.
I'd also like to take artifacts from one place and put them in like a layer of soil sediment which doesn't match. Or in the wrong location.
Okay. So if we had to settle on one,
The Kent Sphinx.
it is the Kent Sphinx
Yeah,
that
it's
you're
a
going with.
five-eyed version of a random guy. We'll have a raffle on the body of a tapir.
Okay.
We'll water erode it a bit so they can't age it properly.
All right.
And
okay.
then we just leave that alone for a few thousand years.
To be fair, if we just sort of let global warming do its thing, the water damage could just happen.
I guess there is a bit of nihilism here as well. As I don't know if we're going to be around
Oh,
as
great.
a species. So maybe the next species that comes along, let's confuse them.
So you're also anticipating an extinction event.
Or us going back to the Stone Age or anything. It just means... And people will be invested in having a continuity of history.
But this isn't continuity. This actually interrupts history. It causes massive
Only
blank
if we
spots.
lose the documents explaining it.
So are we damaging any other part
For
of history
all
by
we
doing
know,
this?
this is exactly what happened in ancient Egypt. But then the "it's a prank" guys got burned in the Library of Alexandria.
So you are... Do you believe this?
It's one of the possibilities that the pyramids were a prank.
Andy, it's important for you to understand that the pyramids were not a joke. They weren't a bit, no, look at me. The pyramids aren't a joke. They're real.
Okay,
Are you understanding this?
I understand they're real.
Do you understand why they're real? Why they're around?
Yes,
And how are they around?
because they're big stone monuments that couldn't get destroyed.
How are they made?
Maybe slavery, maybe skilled craftsmen.
Right. They can both be the same thing.
I guess.
They can take
You're
skilled
really
craftsmen.
harping on the worst part of this.
I am. I don't want to be part of history that's remembered as being a slave master. All right.
We're not using slaves.
Yeah, we're being misconstrued as that. I want people to remember me for what I am.
Okay, so what can we bring this to? So huge stone monuments that aren't confusing?
No, because that's right. The thing is, I'm not against the confusing thing. I think that's a little bit funny.
Okay, so you're fine with the destruction of history. You don't want people to think it was via slavery.
Yes, I think it needs to be.
So small stone monuments.
Yes, not
But
very
lots of
impressive. Okay, yes, something
Okay.
not very impressive. You know what I did when I was in school? I used to get pictures of Nicolas Cage. It was a particular picture of Nicolas Cage, I remember it. And I would print it off en masse in high school at the printer. I would use all my printer credits at school to print off these pictures. And I would stick them to the window of the school bus.
Yeah.
And then we would also, a group of us would leave them in sort of desk drawers and stuff. And there was also someone else who would leave, you actually knew him, would leave origami swans in the desk of teachers' drawers. Drawers of teachers' desks, rather. One doesn't fit in the other. No. And I think something like that, something where it's
But global.
it's repetitive, it's constant,
Okay.
and we just leave lots of small things.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
So you're fine with confusing history and archaeology?
I'm fine with confusing people.
Okay.
That's okay.
You just don't want them to get the wrong message.
I don't want it to look like it was nefarious.
Okay.
I want them to go, what is going on here? This is
More puzzling.
puzzling. Yes.
Whimsical, maybe.
Whimsical is perfect.
Yes.
Whimsical is what history should be.
Okay.
We should get rid of all of the
Bad bits.
problematic parts. We should no. Let's not scrub history of bad things. We should sprinkle in some fun things amongst the bad, so that you can acknowledge the bad happened, but you can also look at these funny things and go, "That's a bit silly.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Why is that happening? When did they have time to do that amongst all the bad things? Maybe it's not all that bad.
Cool.
Maybe there's hope."
So you're fine with large-scale artifacts. They just can't be too big.
Yes. They
Okay.
can't be industrial.
So you want quantity, not quality.
That's right. I've always said that.
Okay.
I mean, look at the podcast. We've already adapted that.
Okay, so we've found some common ground here. We'll destroy history, but in a way that doesn't make us look bad.
We'll destroy history, but in a harmless way, in a funny way.
Okay.
It's not going to be a rager of the bad.
It's a prank.
It's a joke. It's a practical joke on anyone in the future.
Well, we could all back that.
Is that what the game is?
I do think it's a prank by Richard Berg for future generations, yes. So we're getting into the spirit of that.
Have we just became part of this cycle? Is that what's going on here? Is that what's inspired you?
I wonder what messed up Richard Berg.
The pyramids, maybe?
Pyramids, Richard Berg, War with a Mate, the world covered in confusing artifacts. It's the pipeline.
Wow, that is one hell of a domino effect. Wow.
It's like the Twilight 9/11 meme.
The what?
Have you not seen that?
No.
Is it not Twilight? Where 9/11 inspired a band that inspired Twilight, that inspired 50 Shades of Grey. So people say it's a meme.
Oh wow!
Have you
No,
not
I
seen that one?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna have to look into that one. So the 9/11 attacks inspired
indirectly inspired 50 Shades of Grey.
Right. Okay. No, I haven't. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that one. That's a
I'm
wild
also gonna
take.
have to confirm that's true.
If you've just made that one up to confuse me, then that's also crazy.
There's a little nugget in the podcast.
Well, I think we've really recouped our losses today. We've managed to, I think, come out the other end of this as REM would say, shiny, happy people, because there was a moment where it looked quite dark today. It looked like we'd made such a big mistake that it might set back dozens of hours of progress. But I think in reality, this was a minor setback and a learning experience. And through today's somewhat out of routine episode, I think we found that our purpose is still here.
Yeah. And we're getting there.
And I think we can comfortably say that when it comes to the future of this, we're not going anywhere. This will never end. This will happen. This will go on forever. So for anyone listening,
this is our Sisyphean task.
You will never hear the end of this. We will keep going. Tune in every week.
Yeah, because when we push the boulder to the top, we then need to flip it. So I play the Axis and you play the Commonwealth.
That's right. There is no end for this. You don't need to worry about this ending anytime soon. Doesn't matter how many mistakes that are made. It doesn't matter how confusing or frustrating it gets. This is going on forever. This is forever. You will always have this to listen to. This is going on forever. I promise.
It's fun that we've voluntarily constructed our own hell.
We have. But they're all listening.
Yeah.
They're all listening. Well, I think on that note, wait until next week, because we'll be back then, and the week after that, and the week after that, etc.
Oh, thanks for listening, and stay subtle, humble, and brave.
And you'll hear us next time. I promise you that. Fare thee well, and good night.